Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new movie spoiler review here on Max Talks Movies, and we're going to talk about full spoilers for the brand new MCU film Thor: Love and Thunder. We're going to break down the two post-credit scenes, as well as really the ending of the movie and what it leaves up for the next Thor movie. If you're new to the channel, my name is Max Timber. Welcome to Max Talks Movies. Please subscribe, ring the bell if you're new to the channel. I do movie reviews like these, TV show reviews, movie rankings, and box office breakdown show every single Monday, which will be coming out tomorrow. So please subscribe, ring the bell. We're already at 113 subscribers. We keep growing like every day. It's really nice. Let's get to 120 right now. Let's get that next goal. Share it with your friends to make sure they know to join this community. Comment down below. This is a full spoiler comment section. So what are your thoughts on this movie in full spoiler fashion? What do you see next for the future of these characters? Let me know in the comment section down below. Please, please, please like the video. And a last warning, I have done a full non-spoiler review of Thor: Love and Thunder. So if you've not seen that review, go back on my channel. You can watch that, then go see the movie, and then come back here as well. I'm going to give you my future, also my upcoming videos after this review is over. So as I said, I really enjoyed Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, I still think it's a pretty mid-tier MCU film, but for me, it's a very high bar. I had it close to number 10 on my list. On the MCU tier, on my MCU list. After seeing it the day of, I've now bumped it to number 14 of the MCU. So I kind of have it in between because there's 29 movies now. So for me, it's just a mid MCU film in that ranking. And I don't think it comes close to the greatness that was Thor Ragnarok, but there's a lot to like in this movie. And I do think this movie has tons of issues. And this is definitely a divisive film, because if we felt like with Thor Ragnarok, everyone was coming off such a high, this is the Thor we all wanted. Taika was the perfect director. And this film has been very divisive. It's one of the only 4 MCU films to not get at least an A- cinema score, which is, the audience scores for the movie, the certified audience scores. So just an interesting film. And this is what I'm going to say. There's a lot of complaints that people who don't like this movie or think this movie is fine, that I think are valid criticisms. But overall, I remember, again, having a great time with this movie. While I think there's a lot of wasted potential in this movie, I think that's what I think is the most painful part of the movie, that there's a lot of really good stuff in the movie, but it just doesn't get to become this great movie like Ragnarok was. They have characters in place that have pretty interesting storylines that don't get enough material. As you probably know, there's a 4-hour cut of this movie, and there's a 4-hour cut of the movie, and they include scenes of Jeff Goldblum returning as the Grand Master, Peter Dinklage returning as his character from Infinity War. Even now, there's a whole lawsuit now with Lena Headey, with the whole thing about her possibly being in this movie and not getting on screen. So, and this movie again is 2 hours long, and there's a 4-hour cut. It seemed like a lot. So let's get into the spoilers of the movie. That's my kind of background. But let's get into the spoilers. Stuff I liked. A lot of stuff that I did not like in the movie, I could not say in my non-spoiler review. Due to the fact is all the stuff I did like are spoiler-related plot usage of characters. So let's get into some of the things. So the big ending hurrah moment of the movie is actually before we get to the ending, I'll give my general background on what I thought of some of the character choices. So Thor and Korg were just as good as they were before. Really funny characters. I think Thor's a bit more jokey in this film, but still the timing from Chris Hemsworth makes this character work. I don't think if another actor did it, it would kind of feel like a cartoon character more than an actual god who's a superhero. This is the first time you really don't feel, he's way more jokey than he was in Ragnarok, which for me worked. And I think his chemistry with Natalie Portman was way better than it was in the previous 2 Thor films. I thought Natalie Portman was, I guess I said, the best she's been in the franchise, 9 years since she was in Dark World. But she is a total badass. Now, I think the problems with her character come, I think, more at the script than Portman herself, because Jane has a really interesting storyline that they pulled from the comics, with her having cancer, wielding Mjolnir, and every time that she holds it and becomes the mighty Thor, it drains her cancer and makes the cancer just ramp it up her death. Storyline is very cool, but the movie rushes through everything. That's my biggest issue for the movie, is that for me, the first act of this movie was not good at all. And the fears I had about conflicting tones and conflicting comedy to dark came from the first 30 minutes of this movie. And it was flying at you. It's like the opening scene of the movie is actually a really cool, badass opening scene with Gore. His motive set up perfectly, I thought, in the opening scene of the movie, where his daughter dies in his arms, who's actually played by Chris Hemsworth's real life daughter, dies in his arms. And he goes to his God that he's been praying for. And he's kind of like, I don't really care about you that much. You're kind of the last person, but we'll find more of you. And this is where Gore kind of gets into that, gets the sword and kills this God. And that sets Gore, gets Gore manipulated by the sword and his vow that all gods should die. I was like, this is a great opening for Bale and the character, and Gore got me right into the movie and got me actually excited. Took me off guard because of how funny Taika's movies have been, but really loved the opening. Then we cut to Thor with the Guardians, and that all comedy the Guardians felt absolutely useless. It felt like they were shooting Guardians 3 at the same time as Thor, which obviously they weren't, but it felt like this. And while they were shooting Guardians 3, it was like one of the writers was like, oh yeah, we kind of left Thor at the Guardians. Let's get Thor out of that situation. And they kind of conveniently write in a plot line where Thor and the Guardians are just helping people out. And they see that there's thousands of distress calls. And there's one of those distress calls that Thor recognizes someone. Thor's like, I'm out of here. Peace. See ya. I just didn't feel like, also the Guardians had like barely any dialogue. I think there's only one I am Groot. Rocket has nothing to do. I can't remember if Mantis even has a line. So it just felt like a waste of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think a lot of people were pumped to see Thor more with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And this movie quickly says, that's not what we're doing. Thor's gonna do this and Guardians will have their own movie, which I think was a bit of again, they promoted the Guardians heavily as they should have, but they're just not in the movie that much. And then it cuts from Gore super serious killing a god to Thor doing like the Jean-Claude Van Damme holding off the ships in like a karate pose, to Jane having cancer. And these first 3 plot lines that come at you in the first act of the movie do not fit together whatsoever from both a plot level and a tonal level. They felt like 3 completely different movies smushed together. You had a cool villain who has a right motive. Sure, they can combine that, but then there's and Gore's tone doesn't really fit Thor's tone that much, with the goofy, over-the-top, cartoonish aspect, which I thought was funny, but didn't fit with the opening scene. They cut from a super serious opening scene with a villain killing a god to Thor being basically a cartoon action scene with Thor and the Guardians, to Jane having cancer. It was just so jarring off the bat. I was like, this is what I feared most from the movie. Now, once Jane kind of becomes Thor, the movie picks up. The movie has a really hard time building to Jane being the mighty Thor, so much to the point that could have been an entire movie of the build up to Jane being Thor. But literally, we're like 25 minutes in, and she's just already Thor. It was so rushed, and it didn't feel like there was any build up to the surprise of her interaction with Thor in the first act of the movie. She has cancer. She goes to New Asgard, and she has the hammer, and that's like it. We get Darcy coming back, a cameo from Skarsgård to Selvig, but bang, bang, bang. Now, from the rest of the movie, it feels like a completely different movie in a good way. It's a lot more fun when our 4 main characters are on this trip together to get Gore. All of that stuff was a lot of fun. The whole cast has great chemistry together. I'm still disappointed in this movie with the usage of Valkyrie. I was pumped to see her be the new king of Asgard, but they kind of made it look like it was a bad thing that she became king of Asgard. And from a character, she has nothing to do. She has a fake death out scene with Gore in the leading into the 3rd act, which kicks Valkyrie out of the entire finale of the movie, which was disappointing. We go see Omnipotus City with Zeus with Russell Crowe. Didn't love the accent, but the accent fit what they were going for with the character, as they kind of made Zeus look like a joke and the gods kind of a joke. Now, this is the part of the movie. Sorry, I'm talking for so long. There's a lot to talk about with this movie. This is the part of the plot line that felt the most MCU recycled plot lines, and not just from the MCU in the last, obviously, 15 years of the MCU, but just this year. For the third straight Marvel project, we have a character going to higher level people, and that means gods or superheroes, saying, this person's a problem, can you help us? And they say no. This felt like a copy and paste scene from Moon Knight. Moon Knight it was a lot more interesting scene of Moon Knight. And then also in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, let's break all those three scenes down. In Moon Knight, Mark goes to the gods to say that, Harrow is a factor, and he wants to bring back Ahmed's tomb, all of these things. And the gods are like, actually, he's not really doing anything. We're not going to do anything about it. And the gods kind of sit around. In Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange goes to the Illuminati in the movie, and he's like, Wanda's a problem. We have to stop Wanda. And the whole Illuminati's like, Wanda's not really a problem. We see you more of a problem. And now in this movie, Thor goes up to Zeus and is like, Gore the God Butcher's out there. He's killing gods. I think you should probably care about this, and we just need some help. We just need the lightning bolt. And Zeus is like, Gore's kind of killing like lesser tier gods, and that just doesn't affect us that much. And it just felt like the same scene as Moon Knight and Doctor Strange Multiverse, where our main character goes up to higher class people and is like, we have a problem here. Can you help me? No, we can't, because we don't really care. It just felt so recycled in the movie. Now, another problem I had with the movie is that Gore is a fascinating character with a fantastic actor giving it his all in the movie. Christian Bale is fantastic in the movie, but he's called Gore the God Butcher, and he kills all of his kills of gods are off screen, and it makes no sense. I think we all wanted to see Gore. He's called Gore the God Butcher, so we want to see that on display. All of his fight scenes, other than the opening scene, are 50-50 fights with Thor, Jane, and Valkyrie. He doesn't really beat Thor, but Thor doesn't really beat Gore either during the movie. And they just should have let a whole sequence of Gore, just like a sequence, like a 5 to 10 minute sequence of Gore just killing gods. And you would have taken him so much more seriously, but you just don't feel like they're in peril, because the whole movie, Gore's just sitting around on the ghost town with the kids. It just felt like they could have had like literally 5 minutes of the movie, even more, just add 5 more minutes of just Gore killing gods, and it would have been a lot more fun. That's definitely my biggest issue with the Gore character as a whole. As I said, the comedy for me really works. Now, for some people, it's a bit too silly, but Taika's comedy works for me, so I was laughing pretty much throughout the entire film. I know some people think it overpowered the film. I do feel like at points when they went to a bit too serious plot lines of like cancer and dead child, it definitely throws you for a loop, but the comedy for me really worked. And I really love the ending of the movie with Jane's about to die and Thor's like, no more fighting. I care about you. I want to spend as much time as I can with you. We're not risking that for you helping me out. Valkyrie taps out. What a waste of Valkyrie. Korg's not really involved. Thor goes with Heimdall's sons and the kids of Asgard. What a fun sequence of Thor giving them the powers. It seems like a very cheesy scene, early 2000s scene, but I had a blast with the scene. All of the kids are helping out. Thor battles Gore with the help of Jane, who says all of her catchphrases. And that leads to the big ending with, Gore going to eternity from the comics and gets that one wish. And I think all of our heroes thought that Gore wished for all the gods to die. But as Jane is dying, Thor is like, you got to choose love. So Gore brings his daughter back, and Thor is like, I'll take care of her. Jane dies and Gore dies in this scene. We obviously know in the second post-credit scene that Jane goes to Valhalla. We'll end this video talking about that. But we know the movie is called Thor and Love and Thunder. It's called Love and Thunder because Love is Gore's daughter, who now, Thor is now a dad in the MCU, as Chris Hemsworth teaming with his real life daughter, India Rose Hemsworth. In this last scene, they have a fun scene working together. But there's actually really good emotion of Jane dying and Thor and her relationship being so together and then both being so overwhelmingly busy. And I did feel like their relationship drifted apart authentically. Now they had to recap a lot of it because there were 9 years in between these two characters being on screen together, but still was a fun scene. We get to, again, we also see Korg meeting the love interest, Dwayne, I believe is his name. Valkyrie's still in Asgard helping out train Heimdall's son, and Sif is there. But it was actually, I love the ending of this movie because you get Thor and Jane's moment, which is really great. Gor's realization that choosing love over revenge was smart. So you get this, Thor teaming up with his daughter. Great, happy way to end the movie. And you just can't help, even with issues, take the smile off your face watching this movie. This then leads to 2 post-credit scenes. The first one is a mid-scene with Zeus recovering from the lightning bolt scene. And he's like, Hercules, we need to do this. We need to get back at Thor. It is played by Roy Kent himself from Ted Lasso. Brett Goldstein playing Hercules. Super pumped. So happy for Brett Goldstein. And setting up for a possible Thor versus Hercules, Thor 5. We also get a second post-credit scene at the very end of the movie with Jane going to Valhalla. It's referenced throughout the entire film that if you die in battle and you're Asgardian, you go to Valhalla. And it's been referenced like Sif's like, thank God I died in battle. And Valkyrie's like, I really hope whenever I die, it's in battle so I can go to Valhalla. Jane goes to Valhalla, and we get a cameo from Heimdall, who's also died from Infinity War, Idris Elba coming back. So I could definitely see them. Now, this is the not an issue. I actually love the Valhalla scene, but it wonders, where are the stakes in this franchise now? If all these Thor characters who die can just go to Valhalla, can they come back in the traditional MCU? That will be interesting. They clearly showed Jane going there for a reason. I'm not sure if they'll do like a Disney Plus show in Valhalla or bring those characters back into our MCU. We shall see. But so I had a lot to say there. There's a lot to say in this movie, but as I said, I'm very positive about this movie. I don't think this is the greatest MCU movie. As I said, the mid-tier MCU movie for me, but I'm way more positive than negative. There's just what's frustrating is that there's so many, a bit too many missed opportunities. Gore could have been easily a top 5 MCU villain. And I feel like there's so many wasted potential, but it's still a very funny movie with a lot of fun action scenes, colorful stuff, and a great direction from Taika, and a great last act of the movie that really sells it for me. So I'm very positive. I still give it a 4 out of 5 stars, but on my initial review, I gave it an 82%. I'm going to drop that down to a 76%, right above a 4 out of 5. I want to say 4 out of 5. I'm going to go 76% for Thor: Love and Thunder. So that's my sorry, it was a long video. That's my spoiler review of Thor: Love and Thunder. Please like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, comment. Upcoming videos tomorrow, box office breakdown show will break down the box office weekend for Thor: Love and Thunder. And on Wednesday, we're going to break down the season finale of Miss Marvel on Disney Plus. If you want to check back my old review, it'll be right here on the screen, and my other movie reviews. See you guys.